Good evening, viewers. This is DV Real News TV, and I'm Jojo Zaza. Tonight, we bring you an exclusive and deeply reflective report surrounding a controversial figure in Nigerian law enforcement, a man both feared and revered, known for his reign over the streets, and whose recent demise has sent ripples across the country's security apparatus. This is the unfolding story of the late Chief Superintendent of Police, Ibrahim Nwosu, and the haunting message his death now sends to rogue officers across the nation. A story that blends law, fear, and public reckoning has emerged from Nigeria's southeastern corridor. It revolves around a man named Ibrahim Nwosu, once a decorated chief superintendent in the Nigeria police force, known more for the trail of dread he left behind than the honors on his chest. As news of his sudden and mysterious death broke, the silence that had long veiled his activities has now given way to public discourse and an urgent call for reform. During his years of service, CSP Nwosu carved out a fearsome reputation. Communities alleged he oversaw squads that engaged in arbitrary arrests, extrajudicial detention, physical abuse, and even systematic extortion. Multiple reports linked his name to incidents of torture, particularly targeting young Nigerians, often during festive seasons when families returned home, only to be ambushed by roadblocks and coerced into parting with hard-earned cash. The methods varied, but the fear was consistent. Yet, despite public outcry and internal whispers within the force, Nwosu managed to climb the ranks, shielded, many believe, by a culture of impunity that continues to thrive within law enforcement institutions. With CSP Nwosu's demise, longtime human rights lawyer and activist, Ibrahim Effiong, did not mince words. Speaking from Lagos in a televised interview earlier this week, Effiong delivered a stark message to Nigeria's security forces. Let his death serve as a warning to other officers who abuse their positions. Power is not infinite. Impunity always ends. Effiong has spent over a decade highlighting systemic police brutality in Nigeria, and his statement this time wasn't mere commentary, it was a charge. A call to clean house. Nigerians have long known the fear of being randomly detained for wandering, coerced into confessions, or paying bribes to secure their freedom. The Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, was disbanded in 2020 following the massive #NDSARS movement, yet incidents reminiscent of those dark days still persist under different units, different names, and sadly, familiar practices. Effiong's remarks connect CSP Nwosu's legacy to this broader pattern. His death, he suggests, is not a resolution, but a mirror, one reflecting the corrosion of justice within the Nigerian police system. There is no hiding place in a system that eventually consumes its own, he remarked. Some of the victims speak. In the wake of Nwosu's passing, several citizens have come forward to recount personal experiences. One such voice is Chidi Okwara, a university student arrested in December 2022 for what police called loitering suspiciously. Chidi says he was taken to a cell, denied a phone call, and forced to pay 70,000 Nigerian nairas before release. I was scared for my life. They said nobody would find me, Chidi recalls. The officer in charge, Nwosu himself. Another victim, an elderly trader named Mama Nkechi, remembers her son being detained for nearly a week. We had to sell family land to bring him out. The pain never left. While the official cause of CSP Nwosu's death remains undisclosed, unverified sources suggest he suffered a sudden medical episode, possibly stress-related. Others hint at more sinister possibilities, revenge, or perhaps internal disciplinary consequences catching up with him. What's certain is this: his death is not merely a chapter closed, but a chilling footnote in a story still being written, about power, fear, and the price of impunity. According to Ibrahim Effiong, known for taking on Nigeria's most powerful institutions, Ibrahim Effiong is no stranger to resistance. In 2022, he was sentenced to prison for contempt in a case involving judicial overreach, an experience that only deepened his resolve. His advocacy goes beyond CSP Nwosu. Effiong has called for sanctions against government officials for enabling state-sponsored human rights violations. He believes Nigeria's democratic stability hinges on law enforcement reform, independent judiciary practices, and unrelenting civic pressure. The question remains, will CSP Nwosu's death serve as a turning point? Or will it simply become another name in a long list of unaccountable power wielders whose sins die with them? Effiong insists that it must not. If the Nigeria police force is serious about public trust, he says, then there must be audits, dismissals, prosecutions, not just press releases. In the echo of one man's fall lies the opportunity for a nation to rise. Reforming a broken police system will not happen overnight, but neither will silence prevent the truth from rising. As more citizens speak, as activists like Efyong shine the light, the question is whether those in power will listen, or wait to become the next cautionary tale. DV Real News TV. We're stepping into the eye of an intellectual storm, a storm stirred not by guns or coups, but by words, legacy, and the fierce ideological divide cutting through Africa's political and cultural elite. The center of this controversy? Nobel laureate and iconic African thinker Professor Wole Soyinka, and the increasingly radical figure of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the transitional leader of Burkina Faso. The temperature of discourse has shifted from dialogue to denouncement. The phrase lighting up social media this week, "African, can you see that fraud, Wole Soyinka?" Now you understand his views about Captain Traoré. But what lies beneath this viral outrage? Tonight, we unpack the roots of this tension, the generation gap, the revolution in ideas, and the war for Africa's ideological soul. On one side stands Professor Wole Soyinka, Nigeria's globally acclaimed literary figure, a tireless voice for democracy during military regimes, and the first African to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1986. On the other stands Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a 36-year-old revolutionary who seized power in a 2022 coup in Burkina Faso, vowing to liberate the Sahelian nation from foreign control, insecurity, and neo-colonial dependence. For many young Africans, Traoré is not a dictator, he is a symbol of generational defiance. The stark difference between their visions couldn't be more pronounced. Soyinka champions constitutional democracy, the rule of law, and intellectual restraint. Traoré, by contrast, is the face of militarized nationalism, anti-Western rhetoric, and rapid, revolutionary change. The remark making waves, labeling Soyinka a fraud, emerged on social platforms after a resurfaced clip showed him expressing concern about Traoré's style of governance. In it, Soyinka warned against the illusion of revolutionary romanticism and cautioned Africans not to fall for charismatic strongmen who, he suggested, might later mirror the oppressors they overthrew. The backlash was immediate. To many Pan-Africanists and youth-led movements across West Africa, these comments came across not as a grandfatherly warning, but as a betrayal. The same man who resisted General Abacha is now seen by some as condescending toward today's freedom fighters. Social commentator Fatou Bamba, speaking from Dakar, noted, "Wole Soyinka remains a revered figure, but his tone toward Traoré sounds like the elite speaking down to the people. He may not understand what hunger and terror have done to ordinary Burkina lives. What we're witnessing isn't just an attack on a person, it's a larger clash between two Africas, the older, intellectual, liberal democratic Africa of the post-independence era, and the younger, impatient, and insurgent Africa demanding immediate change, even if it comes through unconventional means." Captain Traoré, in recent speeches, has repeatedly attacked what he calls African collaboration with imperialist structures, distancing his leadership from traditional diplomacy and multilateral dependency. His populist stance has won him a dedicated following in not only Burkina Faso, but across Mali, Guinea, and beyond. Soyinka, meanwhile, has warned against what he terms revolutionary mimicry, where revolutionary language masks authoritarian instincts. Is Soyinka out of touch? Or is he offering a cautionary tale? To call Soyinka a fraud is to negate decades of resistance, exile under military rule, imprisonment in solitary confinement, and vocal opposition to Western domination of African affairs. But critics argue, times have changed, and so must the intellectual frameworks. They ask, how can democracy function when entire populations live under siege, when global institutions remain indifferent to African suffering, and when ballot boxes are overshadowed by bullets and hunger? Dr. Kofi Mensah, a political theorist at the University of Ghana, says, "This is not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of rhythm. Soyinka wants a measured march toward justice. Traoré's supporters want a sprint. The insult reflects the desperation of the latter." Public voices from Burkina Faso and Nigeria, street interviews. Young Nigerian, Lagos. Soyinka's work shaped my mind, but I think he needs to listen more to us now. Revolution is not an academic subject. It's real life. Burkina youth leader, Ouagadougou. We love Soyinka for what he did, but he's never fought terrorism in his backyard like we do. Captain Traoré is saving us. No theorist can understand that. Older Nigerian lecturer, Ibrahim. Insulting Soyinka reveals the intellectual poverty of this generation. Debate him, don't demonize him. From Nairobi to Lagos, from Ouagadougou to Accra, the The question looms large: who gets to define Africa's path forward? The revered elders who built Pan-African literature and resistance? Or the young firebrands who say those dreams were too slow, too polite, too complicit? Tonight's insult, calling Soyinka a fraud, may be a misguided emotional outburst, but it is also symptomatic of a deeper disillusionment. It asks, have our intellectuals become distant? And in the vacuum, are our soldiers now our philosophers? As emotions cool, the real work begins, not of silencing criticism, but bridging perspectives. Professor Soyinka is not perfect. Neither is Captain Traoré. But in their disagreement lies a golden opportunity to reimagine what unity looks like, not as conformity, but as courageous conversation. Can Africa grow out of its traumas without devouring its own? Can youth and elders write this new chapter together? To all our viewers watching tonight, this isn't just a tale of words. It's the pulse of a continent in motion. The anger, the admiration, the insults, they all speak to how much is at stake. Wole Soyinka is not Africa, nor is Traoré, but the future will remember how we treated both, and how we allowed space for disagreement without decay. This has been DV Real News TV. I'm Jojo Zaza. Thank you for watching.